We here.
Seth the programmer, and with me today I have my son Six,
Not
the
again,
Naruto
bro.
YouTuber.
My guy Wix got another.
Today he didn't eat all my fries.
Big shout out to my guy Six. If you guys don't know Six is like could I even call Six a new YouTuber? Bruh, I just realized I've never found a Six. Why would Six make his name Six? Oh, I did find Six. I did find Six. Well, yeah, shout out to my guy Six. He been on YouTube for a minute.
But I did see him sneaking a little bit too much snacks out of our closet today, and I was like, all right, listen. You're gonna pay me back, and we're gonna upload another collab to get those chips back, alright? So, today, we're doing something we read in the comments of our last video, which was Danzo versus Hiruzen.
Unironically, never done before. Just say that.
Unironically, never. The only time it's ever been done is just like those random 12-year-old made power level videos on YouTube
and
with
those don't
zero
count.
context, which don't.
Holy, he throwing shade? Holy, he throwing shade. Oh, L. Yo. Who is it? Anime power scale? You guys spin back. Anime power scale, you guys spin back. Yo, anime scale. You might have to spin back.
Count. So, yeah, this is one of the first times it's ever been done, and you'd think it's kind of a generic matchup that you hear a lot, but yeah, no one's ever really talked about it. I don't know if it's out of fear of views or what, but
Fear of views.
it is an interesting matchup, and considering we did our Minato versus Orochimaru, I feel like Hiruzen versus Danzo is actually more thematically interesting, if anything. We did Minato versus Orochimaru with Swag and I because Kishimoto was clear.
But to be honest, if I'd give my personal opinion, I'd have to go with Danzo. Danzo is just a different breed. At that particular point, when you talk about the Danzo that was altered by Orochimaru, obviously, with both the Sharingans, that Danzo, he just had way too many hacks and way too many abilities. I apologize. Now, Hiruzen in itself, I think he's an elite ninja. And one of the things that I hate about Danzo is that after a minute with the Sasuke fight, it was like every single kunai this man had to use a Sharingan. Every single kunai he had to use Izanagi. It's like every single excuse he was using Izanagi. Sasuke coughed too close to Danzo, he had to use an Izanagi. That right there gets me a little bit worried, but I still do believe Danzo probably wins.
Trying to establish a rivalry between them, which never really panned out with the fandom, but it was in the manga a few times. But this is more interesting because these are two old pseudo-ish rivals. It's more of a one-sided rivalry that Hiruzen dominated, where they both wanted to become Hokage. However, Danzo missed the bar. He didn't have like that strong will of fire, or he didn't have that strong resolve to sacrifice himself for the other Leaf Shinobi like Hiruzen was, and Tobirama was like, yep, he's the guy. And also, back in the day, Hiruzen was the strongest of their troop. Now, whether that means that Hiruzen was stronger than Tobirama when Tobirama made him Hokage, probably not, because of the simple fact that someone does comment that Tobirama is the strongest shinobi in Konoha when that happens.
Yep.
And then it seems as though
The crazy thing about Tobirama is that a lot of people like to underrate my guy. A lot of people underrate Tobirama. I think it's because the fourth Hokage took his jutsu and made it a lot better. Because of that, a lot of people believe that Tobirama isn't necessarily like that. This guy, I wouldn't necessarily put a Minato. He's not Minato level, obviously. But he's relatively, I wouldn't say close, but he's up there. 100% he's up there. A lot of problems that Minato would cause any random ninja, my guy Tobirama will cause that as well. It's just simple as that. If someone can't legitimately stop the flying Raijin, Tobirama probably wins.
becomes this ultimate god of war like Shinobi, where he's running across battlefields with him and Enma after the fact.
Yeah.
So that's where he establishes his big legend, which I really hope that the legend is he slapped up Kinkaku and Ginkaku. I really hope that's what it was. But
That would be cool. That would be cool.
I feel like that's what would establish him as so legendary, is if he did something like that. But we never hear about it. So
about the Tobirama,
which is a fact. Like, they really hyped up the third Hokage a lot in Naruto Part 1. A lot. And we've never really heard about the stories. We never really heard about the trials and tribulations that he went through. We never really heard about any of that tough stuff. So I don't know. Can we really give him that much flowers? I don't know. Especially since the main fight that we did see him in, he didn't necessarily look that good against Orochimaru, who isn't necessarily that OP of a character.
here's the thing, just
At that time he was. But Right, and right now he is, but middle Orochimaru wasn't necessarily that OP.
I wanted to comment on it real quick because there's a statement in I think Data Book 4 that says Hiruzen like surpassed Tobirama as
he's
a
more
child.
talented than him.
But yeah, it's literally just talking about talent. Like he's got better ninjutsu and stuff because he has more nature transformations. He can do more jutsu. And Tobirama, he's not really a guy who focuses on learning other people's jutsu so much as he creates his own. So that's probably what it's talking about. Not that he's actually like 4-year-old Hiruzen, but like in Mabop Tobirama or something like that.
Yeah, so the Tobirama versus Hiruzen debate is its own topic entirely. Personally, I like to say Hiruzen, at least as an Edo, is stronger. But, you know, whoever you think is stronger is whatever. He was probably, in his prime, he's definitely stronger than Tobirama. More.
I mean, statements, yeah, but from what we see, we haven't even really seen that much from Tobirama, so I guess statements, yeah.
Likely.
Yeah.
But as an old man, that's a totally different subject. So the interesting thing, though, is that Hiruzen was always stronger than Danzo when they were growing up. They were both under Tobirama's squad, as an example. And Hiruzen was the top dog, but Danzo, over time, as both he and Hiruzen decay from age, this applies to Tsunade as well, all the shinobi are decaying from age, which is why Orochimaru's whole thing is, okay, he viewed Hiruzen as the top dog shinobi, like the god of war shinobi, who was like solo stomping at.
Yeah, and Orochimaru even said, like, if this was a couple years back, he could have got clapped up. He essentially said it was a good idea that he spun right now.
One, creating waves, made the Sannin, did all this crazy stuff. And then he saw, you know, his master grow old and fall from grace, and he's like, okay, if a shinobi who can learn every jutsu, right, because Orochimaru thinks your capacity to learn ninjutsu is how strong you are, he thinks that Hiruzen, who mastered every jutsu, was the strongest shinobi, and if the strongest shinobi falls from grace due to aging, he needs to solve aging. So
yeah, that's actually something I never really fully thought about. This is a fact. And I wonder why Orochimaru kind of lost that drive. Because right now, he's not necessarily set still on learning completely everything. You see what I'm saying? And for example, the Sharingan. Maybe he put the Sharingan in his eye one time and tested it out, and probably was like, I don't care about it too much. But when Shinichiro was introduced into the series, Orochimaru didn't really care that much about the Mangekyo Sharingan. He didn't really care that much. He was so much focused on Mitsuki. He was so much focused on his new projects. This right here is a good idea, but I definitely do want a deep dive episode specifically on Orochimaru and what he's been up to, because I think a lot of people would be interested in that.
this applies to Danzo as well. Applies to Jiraiya probably, and it probably applies to Tsunade. With Jiraiya,
Oh yeah, Hiruzen didn't know every single jutsu. Like he didn't know Izanagi, Izanami. Of course, he couldn't necessarily know the Kekkei Genkais and stuff like that. So not everything, but a lot of the baseline stuff that most ninjas can actually learn, he mastered most of it.
he overcame that due to his Sage Mode, so he gained a new ability, even though he's been aging, or he's mastered it more, and he's learned more techniques. Orochimaru surpassed aging via literally swapping bodies with younger people.
Do y'all think Orochimaru is in his own body right now, bro? Or not his own? Do y'all think that Orochimaru still has the white Zetsu body? Because at the end of the war arc, he stole a white Zetsu body, and of course, that gave him a bunch of abilities because the white Zetsu inherently already had the Hashirama cell, so now Orochimaru had the Hashirama cell. But in Boruto right now, Orochimaru looks a little petite. Orochimaru looks tiny. Like, it looks like he stole someone else's body. Either that, or it's possible that he made a synthetic body and then took that. I think that'd be a lot better, because here's the thing: Orochimaru is all well and good right now, but we understand if nature calls, nature calls. Orochimaru is not necessarily going to think that he's just going to die because he doesn't necessarily want to upset people by not taking another body. Orochimaru would do something like that, regardless of his situation.
Surpassed aging via...
Naga says, nah, he's still in Zetsu. It's possible. It's possible. I just thought that the current Orochimaru looked a little bit shorter than what he was in the war arc.
Literally swapping bodies with younger people. And Tsunade, her way of overcoming aging is more contentious. It's implied that she mastered new jutsu over the years, which is stated by Orochimaru. He thinks that she has mastered more jutsu since he last saw her, so perhaps she has been honing her abilities, even though her reflexes and stuff have aged as well. Yeah. And Danzo's way of overcoming aging was he just threw Sharingans and Hashirama cells all over his body. That's how Danzo overcame aging. And the thing with Hiruzen is that even though Hiruzen was the ultimate shinobi, at least at his time, he never did anything to overcome aging. He's just like, oh, you know what, Minato...
Now, speaking of the overcoming of aging, we seen... My guy Seth, he just pointed out so eloquently a bunch of people that actually did multiple things for aging. Do you guys think that Sasuke and Naruto would kind of take up some sort of tactic to potentially reverse aging, may even be scientific technology? My stance automatically right now would probably be no, because I haven't necessarily seen them do much to aid themselves in a minute. We talk about this all the time. Sasuke still has yet to get an arm. What is he waiting for? What is Sasuke waiting for? Sasuke, I don't even know if he's like nursing his eye or anything like that. But remember, when Kakashi got his eye taken out by Madara, it was immediately put back by a regular eye. People immediately put back other eyes. Sasuke's still walking around with a broken Rinnegan when he understands that there's possibly a shelter with multiple Sharingans. Like, I don't know if that's in them, but hypothetically, if there's a situation where they understand that it's going to be a sustained period of, let's say, war, or a sustained period of dangerous threats and stuff like that looming, they may actually feel the need to kind of preserve their battle strength because of the safety of the what's ever left. I don't know if it's still going to be a hidden Leaf Village by that time, but for the safety of whoever they're going to be protecting, that's possible. But as of right now, I don't necessarily see them doing anything like that to actually slow down their aging process. As of right now, they're still elite. They're 30-something years old. I think they could probably slow down in like 10 years after that. I mean, then they could probably start to think about what they're going to do. But right now, I don't think so.
It's crazy. He just like sold like 1,000 ninja at once. Like, he can be Hokage. I'll just go smoke my...
Yeah, Ladino, he's atoning for his sins. I'll get that. But at this particular time, no one's really checking for Sasuke, trying to figure out exactly if he paid his dues already. We've seen Sasuke square up with Madara. We've seen Sasuke square up with Kage. We've seen Sasuke square up with Momoshiki. We've seen Sasuke square up with Ishiki, Kinshiki, countless other people. He atoned for his sins. We're even talking about in the war arc right now in the anime where the hidden mist ninjas that were actually in jail, they're about to just do one war and get their records completely expunged. Sasuke has been through multiple wars with the Hidden Leaf Village. He is good.
My pipe, and then he's like, wait, I actually have to still be a shinobi? Oh, damn. And then he still remained being Kage or whatever. But he never did anything to overcome his aging. So Danzo, if anything, would become probably more...
And, yo, this right here is something I never really realized.
Oh, damn. And
my God, Hiruzen's hair is white. Danzo's hair is still black. Like,
Danzo, if anything, would become probably more powerful. And Hiruzen just only becomes weaker, which then makes the discussion more interesting. Did Danzo's amps allow him to surpass Hiruzen, who's only decayed extremely rapidly? Seeing Inoki go crazy on Madara just makes you really exaggerate how badly aging... I don't know if it's his clan or what, but Hiruzen aged like milk. He's rotten milk right now. And like...
Yeah, this is a fact. At the time we didn't necessarily know because this is the first old ninja that we really seen try to uncork. But after looking back, like, let's keep it 1,000. When Madara is on his deathbed, he might have been stronger in this version of him. What's it called? How do I forgot Hiruzen? My bad. He might have been stronger in this version of Hiruzen. He definitely did age like milk. But hopefully, and one of the reasons why one of the things that really got to me, when he was reanimated as this version. Like, we know clearly he has much stronger versions. Why was he reanimated as an old man? That made absolutely no sense to me.
I think it was just like Hiruzen didn't train or anything.
Like the whole like Minato era and stuff like that. And
because they sort of imply in the data books that Hiruzen has like this parental relationship with everyone in the village.
Wait a minute. Matter of fact, I'm gonna let my guy slide.
I don't know, the father figure Hokage to actually keep training like he used to and keep up his physique. So he just went
Right.
downhill.
So not only is he aging, but he's also growing a little bit rusty as well.
Yeah.
But even though he's extremely rusty and out of it, he's still master of over 1,000 illusions alone. You know, everyone's like, oh, Kakashi has...
Illusions? Like, just illusions. And what's it called? He about to bring it up just now. Like, we out here falling over Kakashi's 1,000 jutsu. You got just illusions. Like, we're not even getting into his actual other ninjutsu, just illusions.
Over 1,000 jutsu. Yeah, Hiruzen has over 1,000 genjutsu alone. And on top of knowing...
Do y'all think, does Hiruzen have the largest bag in Naruto? Like, bag of jutsus. He might have the biggest bag. It's either Hiruzen or current Orochimaru, or potentially even like a Sasuke. Hiruzen might have the biggest bag.
Free jutsu in the Leaf Village. So that's why Hiruzen was the next step up, whereas Kakashi was the prime example of an elite shinobi. He was a shinobi, the prime example of a very powerful jonin. Hiruzen was the prime example of a Kage, which was, instead of 1,000 jutsu, he just had even 1,000 illusions on top of all his other jutsu. And that was kind of the discrepancy between them. On top of that, you have Hiruzen shown compared to Orochimaru, and Orochimaru at the time, Kakashi just by looking at him is like, wow, if I tried fighting Orochimaru, he would have just decapitated me.
This is what I'm saying. This is what I was saying earlier. It's like first impressions. Like Kakashi, it's like he was nowhere close to a character like Orochimaru. So when people talk about Kakashi amongst the upper echelons, let's say Itachi's the meat and toes, the pains, it's like, let's keep it 1,000. Kakashi's just not that. Even though War Kakashi is arguably that, but I don't know.
In like one attack.
His head's literally just rolling.
Yeah, I need to go lift some weights. And that's literally what happened.
I'm a fool. He's like, I completely miscalculated. What's wrong with me?
Yeah. So Hiruzen was he was a next level opponent, and so is Orochimaru. Now,
my God, ATG says, what illusion did he even have? I have absolutely no idea. This right here is one of the biggest problems with Hiruzen, is because a lot of his feats come from just statements. No actual fact. Like during the actual battle with Orochimaru, which was the biggest one that we did actually see, he was extremely washed. He was an old man. And not only that, during the war arc, he was also washed, an old man. Things like this really got me frustrated. It's like a character that was quote unquote the god of shinobi, a character that at one point was the strongest of all time, supposedly, a character that we seen in early on absolutely 2v1ing the first and second Hokage. How do we not see anything else from this guy after he's dead? You see what I'm saying? But I get where you're coming from. They didn't necessarily show us his illusions, but contextually, Hiruzen was like that.
What's interesting though is that Danzo is also rather impressive, but is he as impressive as Hiruzen? And that's where it gets a little bit more debatable. I'll let Six take over from there.
So the main thing we all have to use to scale Danzo is like ignoring hacks, right? We'll go over Kodo Matsukami later.
We'll go over the actual matchup later.
That's an entire another part of the discussion. We just have Danzo's fight with these random shinobi prior to the Kage summit, and it's just sort of implied that Danzo just mops up these Jonin. But it's something you sort of expect from this person anyway. Like he pulls out his Sharingan, and he's like, "Oh, I got a Sharingan." It's like pretty obvious, whatever. So he mops up Jonin. He's clearly above Jonin level, whatever. He's like a Kage level, here's in rival. And then he gets into his fight with Sasuke.
This was that. I ain't gonna lie. If I'm being 1,000, this right here might be one of my favorite fights, I should say. Not one of the best. One of my favorite fights, probably like top 5 favorite of mine. Sasuke was just so heartless in this episode. Just like he literally looked. What was her name? I forgot her name. How do I forget her name? But you know what I'm talking about, the redhead. He looked her in the eye and literally just absolutely clapped her. It wasn't even really like a second thought for my guy Sasuke. It was immediate.
And you would think Danzo's doing pretty well, but we went over it, and he's kind of not.
Yeah, we like to do brainstorming for the base. We don't script our collabs. We like to brainstorm just like for a few minutes.
Yeah.
And when we looked at the fight, we're like, wait a minute, he kind of just is getting one tapped over and over again.
Which is what I was saying earlier on. It was like they tried to use any single excuse to have my guy Danzo use up his Sharingan. Just like one kunai, oh Izanagi. I'm telling you, he passed gas close to my guy Izanagi. It was Like, what was going on here?
Until Sasuke just gets tired.
Like, there's literally
Kari
a
never
part
goes.
where Sasuke's coming at Danzo, and in one swoop, he cuts off his arm and then cuts Danzo in half. And it's like, what? Like, and then he crushes him with the Susanoo hand. He punches him and kills him one time. The arrow is too fast for him to even weave signs or something like that. Like, he's literally getting bullied the entire fight. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Again, I think that was more just here. This is just me. I might be completely capping. First things first. Plot-wise, Sasuke was going to win this fight. 1000%. There was no ifs, ands, or buts. You see what I'm saying? Another thing, though, they had to show off the jutsu that everybody was talking about. And I think that right there was the goal. You couldn't necessarily have this fight span out for 10 episodes and have absolutely completely thought out reasons upon why he used every single Sharingan. So they had to just, one kunai, hey, you got to use that Sharingan, my guy. So I think that was the reason, but it just didn't play out correctly. Maybe just have Danzo only have 3 Sharingans. Just give him 3 times to use it. Like not like 15.
So something else though is, like, if you want like a more direct scale, how strong is Danzo actually? He's able to somewhat like peel apart like the armor of the Susanoo, using his summoning jutsu, as well as him using a wind style that's like being enhanced via his summoning jutsu on Sasuke's back, while his Susanoo is somewhat immobile. It's somewhat immobile because it doesn't even have legs at this moment, but that's a whole different argument. But even after using like basically his ultimate AP technique, like if he was to have, what's his strongest attack, it would probably be that, as far as we know, other than his hacks. And it literally just kind of rips off some skin off of the Susanoo. It doesn't actually do any damage. And other than that, Sasuke literally grabs him, and I'm not joking, he just crushes him like a piece of paper or something. So the other argument...
Yeah, they had my guy Danzo going out bad, bruh. They really had my guy Danzo going out bad. We was talking about Will Smith's walk a little bit earlier. Sasuke's walk when Danzo was essentially like bleeding out and realizing that everything was bad as Hashirama cells going haywire. That Sasuke walk was absolutely elite.
Though if you want a more direct scale of Danzo, is that how does he scale to Sannin level? Like, how does he actually scale to Orochimaru, Jiraiya, and Tsunade? So now, while we do know there's a relationship between Orochimaru and Danzo, it does seem somewhat headcanonly implied that Orochimaru is the superior of their duo. Danzo wanted Orochimaru to be the Kage, for the most part, not only because of his decision-making in their relationship, but probably because...
Imagine how different things would have turned out if Orochimaru was the Hokage. Like, damn.
It makes more sense.
Orochimaru would probably still be Hokage. That's the crazy part.
Him being Kage, but on top of that, the Konoha elders wanted Jiraiya or Tsunade to be Kage over Danzo. And in fact, Kakashi was also being recommended as Kage. And then, after every...
Which I never really understood, because we talked about a little bit earlier how he was shaken with just like the idea of fighting against a character like Orochimaru. Like, how could that guy at that point be Hokage? Right now, like, when he was 6 Hokage, absolutely, because, of course, the war arc happened, he got the insane power buff. Of course, that version of Kakashi, we agree. He's able to be Hokage, but the Kakashi back in the day, it's like, what were they thinking? I don't know.
Everything else pretty much failed. It was just, they decided to go with Danzo over Kakashi after Tsunade and Jiraiya were out of the picture. Yeah. Implying that the Sannin were better.
I mean, here's the thing. My guy Juju Kaisen, he in the chat talking. Here's the thing. I don't even... Is that version of Orochimaru being Danzo? I don't know.
Kage candidates than someone like Danzo. So it could be heavily implied that Danzo was not Sannin level. So
yeah. And then, like, even with that, the Hokage is supposed to be the strongest in the village. That's kind of what they go for, as well as being trustworthy. So they're not going to pick someone who's weak just to be Hokage just because they're trustworthy. So
they were literally about to pick Kakashi. They were literally about to pick Kakashi. At that time, he was respectfully, he was weak.
Could kind of imply even Kakashi over Danzo. And then going
Right.
through Data Book 3, this seems to be somewhat consistent. So Data Book 3 says about Kakashi, the hand that combines spirited technique belongs to Konohagakura's #1 ninja. And then if
He's
you look
also
at,
called the #1 ninja in Data Book 1 as well.
yeah. And if you look at the Shinobi data chart, it tells you what the little symbol by the people on the data book means, and it means that Danzo is a Konoha Shinobi at the time. So
Yeah, so even though he was kicked out of like the root thing and his root was
Holy, they breaking it down, partner. They breaking it down.
discontinued, he's still a Konoha Shinobi. That was never like stricken from him. So whether or not this applies to Part 1, if it applies to Part 1, that Kakashi is just objectively stronger than Danzo, even in Part 1.
That has to be impossible. I'm sorry, that just has to be impossible. I cannot see that version of Kakashi, Part 1, being stronger than Danzo. Now, I get it. If you even maybe you even got an argument with the pain version of Kakashi versus Danzo, but this version of Kakashi versus Danzo, I'm sorry, I can't get jiggy with that.
If it only applies to this part, then it means that at least Pain arc.
My God, Judas said, what version do I think is the strongest version of Orochimaru? The strongest version has to be the current version of Orochimaru, Boruto or Orochimaru. I mean, he literally Hokage an old girl that was, you feel me, a part of the Kado organization. I genuinely do think Orochimaru right now would give Minato a run for his money. Probably. He'd probably give him a run for his money. We just need to see Orochimaru actually in battle. We've seen him versus Log. We've seen him during the Kado organization thing. We've seen him pack up, what's his name? Victor 2.5. Like, we've seen Orochimaru cause some damage when he's in Boruto. We just need to see more of him. Especially in an arc like this in the Mist Village. Oh my, imagine they sent Orochimaru over there. Bro, I'm salivating just thinking about it. Right?
Kakashi is stronger than Danzo. And this is interesting because Shukaku, who is basically the top dog in terms of intelligence in the Leaf Village, he's like, no, Kakashi should be, like, the Hokage. And then Danzo's like, no, we need reasoning right now. The argument Danzo makes to become Kage is not even his power level or anything. It's due to, like, the reasoning. He's like, no, you've given all these Kage a chance. You need someone like me now. You need someone with a different mindset to save this village. And that's why he was more specifically chosen at the time. And a lot of the things, they were also trying to bring up, Kakashi's age, he's young, he's, stuff like that. They were, like, doubting him a little bit, but not because of his power level. So you could argue even Danzo being chosen, even though Hokage is supposed to be the strongest in the village, that Danzo being chosen as Hokage was the feudal lord being a little bit ignorant and being manipulated, which might be Koto Matsukami as well. We never really know. But at the time, that's what we know about him. So it seems as though if you're trying to be more rational, that the Sannin are probably stronger than Danzo. And Danzo is probably, if anything, weaker than Kakashi. And this is actually
that has to be capped. Here's the thing. And I think at that particular time, especially when the data books were out and everything like that, originally in Part 1, Danzo, I don't think that he really had all those other Hashirama cells, or it was documented that he had the Hashirama cells, he had the Sharingans and stuff like that. Like, Danzo was going fairly under the radar. I think it's fair to say, especially Koto Matsukami, like, these are just things that significantly make Danzo a lot stronger than just regular guys. I think at that particular point, they didn't really take that much into consideration. Here's the thing. I think that Danzo 1000% is Sannin level, is Kage level, 100%. He's stronger than this version of Kakashi. I don't necessarily know if he wanted to publicize it. Like, for example, when he was kind of like making a case for him to become the Hokage, he's not about to say, hey, I'm stronger than Kakashi because I have Koto Matsukami, I have multiple Izanagis. He's not going to do, I got Hashirama cells. He's just not going to do that. But I get where they're coming from, though.
What implied by Kakashi also reacting to a stronger Sasuke's Susanoo arrow. Whereas Danzo could barely do that to a weaker Sasuke. So if the Sasuke Susanoo type is based on his power level, which is actually implied when it first gets the clothes and the bow and arrow, it's actually stated he's stronger. Then when Sasuke's Susanoo doesn't just get clothes, but full armor, like Itachi's Susanoo, then Kakashi reacts to it then Kakashi has actually better feats by that time, which further supports he is the number one shinobi over Danzo as well. So, with that out of the way, you can somewhat imply that Hiruzen is stronger than Danzo.
Like, just speaking of Itachi, because we went over this a little bit before video. After Hiruzen dies, Itachi comes back to the village in order to, like, kind of...
Turk is talking facts. He says even with the reputation of being Itachi, Data, and Orochimaru, what's it called? Kakashi still thought it was impressive that Sasuke beat Danzo. This is a fact. Kakashi also didn't know about his Sharingan hacks, so base Danzo is a lot stronger than he gets credit for. That's what I'm saying. I'm not going to say the data books are wrong. You see what I'm saying? But I'm going to say the data books are wrong. I mean, it has to be. Like, it has to be, especially for that time. If it's for that time, okay. But overall, I think it's a little bit misguided. I get where they're coming from, though. I think they're trying to make the point, hey, Kakashi is supposedly weaker than Orochimaru. Kakashi essentially understood that he couldn't necessarily stand a chance against the third and stuff like that. So, hey, what's it called? If Danzo is weaker than Kakashi, Danzo can't be stronger than the third. I get it, but you feel me? It's
like,
still a little
Danzo,
bit.
like, yeah, I'm still here. Don't mess with Sasuke. And Seth was saying, this may imply that since Hiruzen's dead and Itachi's doing this, that prior to his death, Hiruzen is the thing keeping Danzo in check. So maybe like, because Danzo doesn't really listen to Hiruzen's orders anyway, so it's probably like a power thing.
Yeah, so it's somewhat implied that Hiruzen, like, he was somewhat wary of his power still, which is interesting because he knows, about his power compared to, say, Orochimaru and stuff like that. Even hears Hiruzen talking about it. Lots of points, Hiruzen even says directly, like, no, a fight with Orochimaru is scarier than you think, and it's very obvious that Danzo probably knows that as well. If Orochimaru knew it, if Orochimaru's like, yep, what's up, old man, I know I'm going to be able to fight you now, then Danzo probably knows as well.
And this is the fact. I mean, I think they're definitely making a very good case for the third Hokage over Danzo. I mean, I don't necessarily want to be that guy, but it's like, what is the third going to do against Kodo and Matsukami? Like, legitimately, what is he going to do against that? You see what I'm saying? There's nothing really stated that he's, like, completely invulnerable to Genjutsu or anything like that, especially a Genjutsu of the level of Kodo or Matsukami. Not only that, I mean, you could probably kill Danzo once or twice or 3 or 4 times, like... But like sooner or later, you have to think he's probably gonna understand. He's probably gonna find a way around a lot of his jutsus, especially if it's not necessarily of the level of like a Susanoo that Sasuke was using. You see what I'm saying? With his Mangekyo Sharingan. I don't know.
Being very close to Hiruzen throughout the years, but still, the fight is interesting not just because of that, but it's more so. Can Hiruzen actually out-hacks Danzo, or is his power level enough to overcome Danzo's hacks? So
that's really the question.
Weird.
I literally just asked that. That's really the question. Like, what is he gonna do against Kodo Matsukami? You see what I'm saying?
So I'll say right off the bat, if Danzo starts off with Kodo Matsukami, there's no real battle to be had.
Again, I don't want to be that guy, but sometimes that guy is kind of right. Like, what is he gonna do against Kodo Matsukami? You see what I'm saying? I don't know.
It's a Genjutsu that Hiruzen arguably doesn't even know about or know that Danzo even has, and it affects you like subconsciously to the point where you don't even know you got hit by it. So it's kind of like weird to argue Hiruzen would just neg it without when the fight first just starts if they're in character. However, if it's used mid-battle, say like Hiruzen's using Enma, then it's a little bit more interesting because you could argue that Enma can work independently of Hiruzen
100%.
And knows all his mental states and would be able to help him counter Kodo Matsukami. I'll let you go into that.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, the best way to counteract Genjutsu is essentially not being alone. You see what I'm saying? Or just having a tail beast. Essentially not being alone, still the same thing. But if they're literally in character, as my guy was just talking about, what's it called? Danzo is much more likely to pull out a Sharingan Big Paws a lot more quickly than Hiruzen would be to summon Monkey King Enma 100%. So I think just off of that, again, I hate to be that guy, but what is he going to do against Kodo Matsukami?
But
yeah, so during the battle with Orochimaru, Hiruzen is obviously very distraught because he's fighting his student. Kakashi even says he feels like sort of the same way whenever he goes up against Sasuke. It's just like a feeling these people have. he's not fighting like himself. Like he's literally allowing himself to be hit, things like that. And Enma starts fighting for Hiruzen, like fending off some of Hashirama's wood style, which by the way, in and of itself is a feat. He's fending off Hashirama's wood style, and he's like, Hiruzen, why are you acting so weird? Start fighting for real. So if he notices Hiruzen's like messed up or his chakra's disturbed, he could probably just break him out by handing him chakra, the same way they do to Mifune in the Kage Summit after he's out of Kodo Masukami.
Another thing, too, is if you think that Danzo has a summoning jutsu, at least by part 1, which this is debated about as well.
Why would that be debated? Like, doesn't he have the summoning jutsus? I thought this right here would probably, like, coming out.
But if you think that Danzo has his summoning jutsu in part 1, then Hiruzen's Enma is actually stronger than Danzo's elephant. He would actually be able to throw Enma at Danzo if he ever gets hit by Kodo, or at least Enma would be able to act independently, and would probably be able to put the hands on Danzo to the point where it would probably break Hiruzen out of Kodo, arguably. And this is weird because Danzo's Kodo Matsukami works a little bit different than Shisui's or Itachi's Crow, which you can also get into if you want. But
yeah, I mean, the theory is extremely simple. It's just that the eye that is on Itachi gives commands, while Danzo's eye...
Oh my God, Black Cloak Shinobi in the chat, he talking facts, bro. Get bar to 1K. Or get bars burner to 1K. This is a fact, bro. If y'all ain't subscribed already, you guys might as well subscribe, hit the like button. You feel me? Hopefully I'll be streaming a lot more in the future. I ain't gonna make no promises. I hate making promises, but I'ma try.
Requires a constant stream of chakra to control someone, sort of like a puppet. So Itachi's command is protect the leaf, but with that, he can do different things to protect the leaf. Like he can teach Naruto things about teamwork, and he can go stop Kabuto, who he deems like a big threat, bigger than Obito, whatever. And Danzo, he's actively making Mifune respond to the Kage and things the Kage are saying in current time. So it's not like he gave him a set, like a script to read or anything like that. He's literally telling him like, oh, say this now, say this now.
Crud in the chat, he says Sasuke literally killed Danzo 10 times and it was low difficulty. Just what I was saying. I don't know if it was supposed to be that way. I just think that they wanted to highlight the Izanagi's and they had to kill Danzo somehow because obviously it was like the Sasuke thing and it was Sasuke's story. And to kill Danzo, he literally had to kill Danzo 12 times. So they had to make it like some random stuff. Again, he was throwing kunais at Danzo and Danzo was dying just off of that. Like, let's keep it 1,000. Denki can deflect that. Denki's more durable. So, I don't know.
And then that makes Al come down. He's like, oh, I recognize that chakra because Al's fought Shisui in the past sometime. And he's saying Shisui's genjutsu lets you control people, blah, 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 without their awareness. And that's when Danzo turns it off. They're asking him, like, remove his bandages, show him the Sharingan.
So, in terms of Kodo, if it's used at the very beginning, it probably wins by default. But if it's used mid-battle, Enma might be able to snap him out of it. Enma is strong enough to fight the Kage summonings even before he's in his staff form. Apparently his staff form is stronger than his normal state, and in his normal state he literally kicks away the Hokage summonings, which were already rivaling Orochimaru and Hiruzen to begin with. So Enma would be strong enough to actually put the hands on Danzo, as Enma is stated to be the strongest summoning and has that feat. On top of this, though, there are some...
Yo, speaking of Enma, bruh, can we please have my god Konohamaru get Enma? They got to give him something, bruh. They have to. Like, what? Enma probably just chilling. He bored. Like, he's probably bored. Whenever Konohamaru is in a battle, we need to see Enma simultaneously. I mean, instantly. Expeditiously. Bro, before Konohamaru throws a punch, he needs to summon him. Before. This is just a fact. I'm sorry.
Weird things in terms of the fight that I actually kind of made me want to do this video, and that's misconceptions. So the first thing we need to go over, Hiruzen is strong enough to fight Danzo, but does he have the stamina to? This is the biggest question. Does he have the stamina to? Now, when I was actually brainstorming this topic, I actually thought of a weird refutation to the fact that Hiruzen has bad stamina, because I actually don't believe that anymore at all. I actually think he has insane stamina. So this is the reason I think he has insane stamina. So the one thing that people point out for him having bad stamina, and I used to do this as well literally an hour ago, is that is that Hiruzen fights 3 Sannin level opponents. Dude, imagine if all 3 Sannin jumped him at once, and that's pretty much what Hiruzen is doing, okay? Imagine he had to fight Jiraiya, Tsunade, and Orochimaru all at the same time, and maybe in their base forms. And that's pretty much what he did. And then people are like, oh, after he had to fight these 3 Sannin, he got a little bit tired. It's like, yeah, he would get a little bit tired. Like, that's kind of insane. Like, that's cracked.
But the thing is that Danzo has like 12 lives. Like, yeah, he literally has like a dozen lives. You see what I'm saying? Like, I get it. Hey, oh, you feel me? Signing level character, you defeat 2 of them and you're tired. But this guy got like 12.
And
Yeah.
then, after he gets a little bit tired, he then goes into basically his ultimate state, which is, the state that Haku suggests, amped Shinobi, and this applies to Hiruzen as well, in the data book as well, that when he thinks he's protecting others and he gets over his depression fighting Orochimaru, his true powers are unleashed. He then dispatches the 2 Kage, which were rivaling the Sannin, and then he squares off with Orochimaru to the point where he's tug-of-warring with his soul for an hour. And this is stated, for an hour, he's tug-of-warring with his...
I get it. I get where you're coming from. I don't necessarily have any problem with his stamina. Again, I've always just been saying, what is he going to do against Koda Matsukami? And I hate to play that role, but what is he going to do?
soul for an hour. But not only this is after he had to take down the 2 Osani level Kage, was already exhausted, and then Enma...
Danzo loses chakra every time he uses a Sharingan though, or loses a Sharingan though. I get that, but it's like I personally do believe this is just me. After let's just say the physical, you feel me, toll hypothetically on a character like Old Man Third, I don't necessarily think that he could handle that 12 times, especially since Danzo isn't necessarily going to be losing as much stamina as like a third Hokage did when he was fighting against 3 regular Sani. We understand Danzo got absolutely trashed multiple times. Again, stated that I just think it's for plot reasons. I just think at that particular time it was just for plot reasons to have Sasuke get the W, and they had to do it in a short amount of time. They couldn't necessarily span the fight out 10 episodes. But again, after the not even talking about the Kodo Matsukami, I think the physical total in third would definitely be immense.
to catch a sword, impaling him from behind.
Oh, Big Mello in the chat. I ain't even see my guy Mello. What's good, Mello?
And literally making him bleed out for an...
Oh, Mel, what's your take on this? Third Hokage versus Danzo. Mel, I've been saying this. I don't necessarily think that third could get past the Kodo Matsukami. Period, point blank. I think there's a lot of other things that the third Hokage has. And if we're going to talk about speed, strength, regular things like that, obviously the third Hokage is probably going to be a lot better than that. Not only that, ninjutsu, third Hokage probably got one of the deepest bags in Naruto, but Kodo Matsukami is one of those things. Just like if we're talking Ishiki Yotsuki, we don't need to talk about anything else in regards to his versus battles. If we're talking about him versus another character, all we have to talk about is speed and strength. What are they going to do against the speed and strength? Like, taijutsu wise, he's absolutely mopping most people. With this, what is he going to do against Kodo Matsukami?
Hour while he plays tug of war with a Sannin who's already probably stronger than Danzo for an hour. And the Anbu in the background they're like, what kind of shinobi can fight for an hour? This is virtually unheard of.
An hour? I mean, again, this is all a hindsight 2020 vision, but let's keep it 1,000. We heard about Kage and them fighting for multiple days at a time. Naruto and Sasuke fought for like damn near a whole day. Like, I forgot the actual numbers. Melo probably knows this, or some of you guys probably know in the chat. An hour isn't necessarily crazy when it comes to the elite upper echelons.
Yeah.
He says this is a legendary stamina feat, basically, from old stamina, like, restricted Hiruzen. He's going this crazy. So then you have to ask yourself, okay, if Hiruzen can fight basically 3 Sannin level opponents, maybe not amped Sannin, but at least base Sannin level opponents, which are still very powerful, then that means you have to wonder, can Danzo put that same level of pressure on Hiruzen to even make him that tired? Can Danzo put the same level of pressure on Hiruzen as he has to fight his own student and as well as two people who rival him in power all at the same time? Can Danzo put that pressure on him? And I don't think he can.
Can an arguably weaker than Kakuzu fight Kakashi opponent fight on the level of 3 Sannin at the same time? Probably not.
Probably not. Probably not. And it's to the point where it's like, okay, I want you guys to ask yourself this. Say Hiruzen goes full power. All right, it's a versus matchup, right? Say Hiruzen goes full power. He's ready to defend the Leaf Village. He's like, all right, Danzo, I'm sorry. I don't care if it's my brother or whatever. I'm going to kill you now. Do you think that Danzo can last for an hour against Hiruzen?
No.
Because here's the...
Again, they're kind of tiptoeing. Outside of Kodo Matsukami, I think we could all possibly agree the third Hokage might be able to watch Danzo. And this right here is just assuming that you from the Danzo that we do know and love. I mean, the Danzo that they were talking about in the data books and such as that, you feel me? It's like kind of equal to the Danzo that's now has Hashirama Cell, that now has a bunch of Sharingans, things such as that. Just off of that, let's just say the third Hokage, we understand the third Hokage wins. But what about Kodo Matsukami?
I think Sasuke doesn't have good stamina either, especially with MS. When he has EMS, he has good stamina. But MS Sasuke does not have good stamina at all. He uses a few abilities, he wants to pass out. It's just like Itachi. Itachi's Amaterasu, one time he's huffing and puffing. All right? Same thing.
Melo, you talking about the same thing? If the third's tactics are better than Danzo's hacks, it's GG's, we understand that. But what tactics are better than a jutsu like Kodo Matsukami?
Here, Sasuke uses his MS ability and runs out of stamina.
Yo, this is what I was talking about. Oh my goodness. This is what I was... Yo, he couldn't get past some Shuriken.
Same thing. Here, Sasuke uses his MS
couldn't get past some Shuriken, bruh, come on.
ability and runs out of stamina. But the other thing people don't know is that while Sasuke runs out of stamina very quickly using his abilities, so does Danzo. Because what people don't know is there's 2 statements of Danzo losing chakra due to using abilities. The first one is where he can barely react to Sasuke's Susanoo arrow, which is weaker and slower than the one Kakashi reacted to. Wink, wink.
All right, this is fact. I think I can see this point. 100%. Danzo looks like stamina-wise, he isn't there. And I kind of forgot this legendary scene right here when they both kind of stabbed each other, and of course Danzo thought that he had another Sharingan left. He looked extremely tired. He looked gassed. Straight gassed.
Barely react to... It's also stated he loses chakra when his eyes close. So whenever one of his eye abilities close due to him regenerating, he loses chakra. He basically loses power every single time. So Hiruzen, if he's whooping him up with Enma's staff for an hour, it's only getting easier as time...
Alright, yeah. Maybe I was wilding. Yeah, alright.
Goes on, rather than hard.
So stamina-wise, yeah.
Which makes it even harder to argue Danzo has the actual pressure of Orochimaru plus 2 Sannin level summonings. It's just not likely at all, at least in my opinion. But yeah. I'll let you talk, Six. I ran.
No. I agree like completely. And then I just found this like mid video.
Wait, what is
this?
At
the end of the Sasuke fight.
Bro, tell me they ain't about to cut off before they get to the part where I like. I was talking about Sasuke's walk at this particular point. Watch them cut off the scene, bro.
Danzo is unaliving himself.
They ain't cut off.
He's talking about Hiruzen, and he says,
"This the walk I'm talking about." Tell me this man Sasuke not walking like a straight thug, bro. What is this?
No matter how far I ran, I could never catch up to you. So...
Oh, there you go. That's why Danzo. That's why Itachi had to remind Danzo not to mess with Sasuke after Hiruzen died. Okay, there you go. So Hiruzen did actually seem to scare Danzo in the power department. Anyways, guys, that's really all there is to say. Feel free to subscribe to me.
Melon said the Kodo Matsukami isn't that hard to break out of. I want to know, how did the samurai break out of the Kodo Matsukami?